set up your business in such a way that you've got your key players, but that you also have a game plan to reach out and get the other weapon if needed.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
Welcome back, every one of you, to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out once again. Quick minisode on a topic that I talk a lot about in my private coaching, in the mastermind groups. It is an issue that comes up over and over again. It's a principle that I think applies to many aspects of your life, but specifically we're going to apply it to your appraisal business today. Speaking of your appraisal business today, how is your appraisal business? If I asked you what your revenue was last year, could you tell me? If I asked you how many appraisals you're currently working on, could you tell me? Well, I could, because I have ANow software. ANow will make sure that you are aware of everything going on in and out of your business. ANow.com is where you go for more information. Again, it's ANOW.com. I don't remember where I first heard it, but there is an old Navy term, I think it's attributed to the Navy, that one is none and two is one. Usually I think they're referring to your firearm, right? If you're out and about and you're in the heat of battle, if you've got one gun and the firing pin fails on you, you have none. You have zero. You have nothing. Right? As long as that firing pin works, as long as the mechanics of the weapon work, then you're good to go. But when it fails, you're in trouble. And so the idea that two is one is none, meaning if you have two, you have freedom, flexibility for one to fail. Well, that principle, that idea, I think can and should be applied to almost every aspect of your appraisal world. Now, let me set this up by being very transparent that most of the individuals that I begin coaching with are single person shops, right? It's the way that most appraisers work across the nation. Traditionally, historically, this has been a business, if you will, if you want to use that word, career where an individual wants to, quote unquote, have the freedom and flexibility of their own schedule, the ability to make a pretty good living, but they typically will do it at least, if not all by themselves. They'll do it with maybe a little bit of help from somebody else. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's Aunt Fern, maybe it's someone else. But for the most part, appraisers are not working in a true business-like environment, okay? That being said, they come to Dustin Harris, the appraiser coach, because they want to grow. They want to develop. They want to become a business owner and not just an individual that owns their own job. And one of the things that we there's really three things that we talk about over and over and over again in different aspects and apply them to their specific situation. And that is number one, technology, number two, human resources. And then the third leg of that stool is the procedures, the processes that put that all together. But let's talk about the first two legs of that stool in this term of two is one is none. When it comes to technology, I want you to think about your system right now. I assume if you're listening to this podcast, everything is working just fine, right? You've got the leisurely time to turn on your computer and listen to my voice because you're not in an emergency situation. But we've all been in those situations where you wake up and the computer doesn't turn on, for example, or it turns on and something's crazy. My question is, do you have a backup plan? Do you have a situation where you can now turn to someone else for assistance or something else for assistance? So when it comes to technology, for example, I have backups for my backups for my backups, right? I have currently 4 different main areas and really kind of a fifth one as well, where all of my files are backed up. Meaning if one system fails, I've got 3 others to rely upon. If 2 systems fail, I've got 2 others to rely upon. Folks, this allows me peace of mind. I've been in a situation where I've lost data. We lost an entire month's worth of data where multiple backup systems had gone down simultaneously. It was a very stressful situation, and we lost a whole month's worth of files. The work files, the files themselves, we were doing revisions in time to come in the situation where an AMC might reach out to us and say, hey, could you revise 123 Any Street? And we would say, sure. Could you please send us the PDF that we sent you first? And we would have to recreate the file and then do the revision and then turn it back in. Not a fun situation to be in. But the point of the story is we did not do what we should have done to have backups of backups of backups. Technology, it's very, very important that you back up your technology and that you have a backup for your technology. And those are two different things. Meaning there's one thing to back up your work files. It's one thing to back up your appraisal files. It's also another thing to have a backup for the technology itself. Meaning you've got a second computer, for example. You wake up in the morning and your main computer goes down. Do you have the ability to switch to your laptop and continue to work? If not, you need to, right? Do you have backups for your systems that you come to rely upon? I want to talk about the more important process, the more important aspect of 2 is 1, 1 is none, when we get back from the break, and that is human resources. First, I want to talk to you about Anow software. Folks, I don't know if you've tried it. I don't know if you've looked into it. I know a lot of appraisers have looked into it a couple years ago, and they thought, I can, okay, maybe, I don't really like the price, whatever. Folks, when you are analyzing software of this nature, okay, a total appraisal management system, I'm telling you, folks, the quote-unquote cost is not a cost. It is an investment in you. It is an investment in your business. It is an investment in your peace of mind to know that you can run your entire business from a piece of software that was set up by appraisers for appraisers. It's Anow software, and you can learn more by going to ANOW, that's anow.com. Welcome back to the program, everybody. We're talking about an old Navy saying, 2 is 1, 1 is none. I think we get the concept. The question is, are we applying the concept? We've talked a little bit about technology, having backup systems and backups for your files, right? If you've got a monitor that goes down, can you quickly, and I mean within minutes, have a new monitor up and going? If you have a computer that goes down, can you switch to a new computer? And what would happen if you were actively working on a report while it went down? Would you lose that report? Would you only lose a few minutes of that report? Do you have systems in place that allow you to be able to pick up where you were without too much headache? What about human resources? Folks, I can tell you that this is probably where we talk about this particular phrase more often than any other. Yes, technology is important, but let's talk human resources. Do you have a backup for those individuals that you have hired, trained, and have the ability to work with on a day-to-day basis? Now, I want to make it very clear. That does not mean that every time you hire somebody that you hire 2 of them. Although I will say that if I had the choice between hiring 1 full-time individual to help me or 2 part-time individuals to help me, I would absolutely choose the latter every time. Why? Because 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If 1 goes down for maternity leave or vacation or sick leave or, heaven forbid, gets hit by a bus, what choices do you have for filling in? I can tell you right now, in my situation, I have an excellent, the best office manager I've ever had. She's incredible. She does it all. But yet, she goes on vacation once in a while. She leaves once in a while. What happens then? Well, I've got a backup. I've got an assistant office manager, if you will, who happens to live in the Philippines, who is absolutely incredible and can pick up and do the job that Shawnee does if Shawnee is away. 2 is 1, 1 is none. That being said, this idea, this concept does not have to be a financial burden. It simply requires some planning ahead. For example, let's say you have, a trainee that you're working with. Let's say you've worked with that trainee 2.5 years and he or she is getting ready to take his or her test, and they all of a sudden decide, you know what, never mind, I don't want to do this anymore. It happens. What now? Do you have systems set up in such a way that you could hire and replace that person fairly quickly? If not, folks, that's where this comes in. Now, going back to the saying, if you're carrying a weapon and the firing pin fails you, you may not necessarily be carrying 2 weapons. The idea is not to carry a rifle in each hand. The idea is to have accessible to you either the parts or another weapon of choice, right, that is readily available if needed. The same concept applies, of course, to this idea of running your business. Set up your business in such a way that you've got your key players, but that you also have a game plan to reach out and get the other weapon if needed. 2 is 1, 1 is none. Folks, these are the kind of things that we talk about in our mastermind groups across the country, and we have them everywhere. They're all over the country, from D.C. to Chicago to Dallas to Salt Lake to Los Angeles to you name it. We're out there, and people are traveling from all over. Don't think that, I don't live in Salt Lake. I can't attend one of them. Folks, I'm telling you, 90% of the people in those groups are not from the hometown that we're meeting at. They are traveling because they see the value in coming together with like-minded appraisers on a quarterly basis to work on their business. We would love to have you join us. please follow the link at theappraisercoach.com/memberships.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.